What's up, basketball fans? Welcome to the Raptors Report. We got some massive news to talk about regarding the Toronto Raptors. So there was news yesterday discussing how the Toronto Raptors could hunt for a big fish this offseason. And now there's more news that came out shortly after I made my video yesterday, ironically talking about, let's focus on some of the smaller names. And what do we hear? It was being reported that Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Toronto Raptors reportedly have mutual interest per Toronto Star. This was according to Doug Smith. We're going to be talking about Giannis in this video. We're going to be discussing what the Raptors could give up for Giannis and how Giannis would not only impact the Toronto Raptors and what their ceiling could be with Giannis on the roster. So if you're ready to watch this video, make sure to hit the subscribe button. And with that being said, let's get into today's video. Now, as you guys know, I do like to give out shout outs on my channel, and the shout out for today's video goes out to Kevin Hallam. I apologize for mispronouncing. Maybe you can let me know in the comment section if I'm pronouncing your name correctly, but thank you for supporting this channel through your likes and comments. It is very much appreciated. Now, let's talk about Giannis Antetokounmpo. Why would he want to come to a team like the Toronto Raptors, you may ask? He actually has very good connections with Raptors executive Masai Ujiri, who helped bring his family over from Africa to Greece. And obviously, we know the rest is history with Giannis coming to the NBA as well. And also just Masai has always loved Giannis. He had tried very hard to trade into that draft to get a first-round pick to potentially draft Giannis. Obviously, the Raptors weren't able to land Giannis, and that wasn't the only time that the Raptors pursued Giannis. The Raptors also tried to trade for Giannis, or at least tried to attempt to sign him in free agency when the Raptors cleared their sheets and, they let go of Marc Gasol, they let go of Serge Ibaka only a few seasons after winning the championships in hope of talking to Giannis in free agency. We know the rest is history because, again, Giannis re-signed with the Milwaukee Bucks. Maybe the third time is a lucky charm for the Toronto Raptors, who will now have a chance to not only trade for Giannis. Could Giannis potentially want to come to Toronto? I don't think it's a far stretch to say that Giannis would absolutely love to come to Toronto, given some of the other situations around the Eastern Conference, right? He has stated that he wants to remain in the Eastern Conference. And, one of the other teams besides Toronto that has been often come up in terms of a landing spot for Giannis has been the Brooklyn Nets. But in terms of the Brooklyn Nets, guys, like Giannis goes there, they're kind of expected to sign free agents to surround him with talent, right? It's not a team that has, a lot of talent at the time being. They're trying to rebuild, obviously, and maybe they do look to accelerate their rebuild and trade some of the first round picks for Giannis. But again, you got to question how much can you really improve that roster when all you really have is, a lot of cap space, which is good, but it limits your amount of, limits the amount of assets you can accumulate on a roster and just make that roster better overall. So let's focus on the Toronto Raptors. In terms of Giannis, if the Raptors were to trade for him, the most important thing we have to talk about is money, 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 because we know in the new CBA rules, it's not only, making trades work, but also financial reasons as well. So taking a look at Giannis's contract situation here, he makes $54.1 million next season. Keeping that in mind, the Toronto Raptors do have to come close. They don't have to absolutely have to match. Obviously, the first name, a lot of people may throw out is Emmanuel Quickly, RJ Barrett, throw them. Money somewhat works. Obviously, you would probably have to take one more player back in terms of kind of making the money work there, for someone like RJ making $27.7 million, and you got IQ making $32.5 million. But I'm going to be very straightforward and honest. This trade is not getting done without the Toronto Raptors, including Scottie Barnes. And for those that may think otherwise, look at some of the other teams and what they could offer, Giannis for Giannis. In fact, look at the Philadelphia 76ers. It may not be a hot spot, but look at where their pick is, and that automatically just if the Raptors aren't including Scottie Barnes, Philadelphia calls Milwaukee and offers up that pick in this year's draft class, which is, I believe, the third overall pick. I'm having a little bit of a brain fart here, but the third overall pick, the Philadelphia 76ers are offering that, and that is better than any of the players with respect out of, maybe besides Brandon Ingram. That's better than anything the Toronto Raptors can offer. So there goes their trade negotiations, and the Raptors lose out Giannis potentially for a third time. But that's not going to happen because Scottie Barnes will be on the table. And you know what? For a Milwaukee Bucks team, you get a young player. Scottie Barnes, obviously rookie of the year, one-time All-Star. Obviously had some injuries last season, which just really derailed his season overall and struggled a bit too. But Scottie Barnes is going to Milwaukee. There's no way around it in terms of making the money work. You do have to add in more players to make the money work. So Scottie Barnes, Ochai Abaji and Grady Dick. Again, that adds up close to 50-ish million dollars, close anyways to $50 million. That makes the money work. Now, of course, the one nice thing about trading Scotty Barnes for Giannis is, obviously you get Giannis, but you're also not having to give up as many future first round picks. If you're trading, let's say, RJ Barrett and Emmanuel quickly, you're easily giving up 4 first round picks, guys. There's no way around it. Like, people have this delusion as Raptors fans that we think we were just going to magically, trade IQ and RG. And I mean, that's what we got for OG and Anunoby. And with respect to OG, Giannis is 10 times the player that OG is offensively, anyways. But I mean, there's no way that trade is working, even if we throw in 4 first round picks. Like, I mean, think of it from the Milwaukee Bucks point of view, right? Why are they taking Emmanuel Quickly's long-term money? RJ Barrett's due up for extension. Like, they're asking for Scotty Barnes, and that's it. But when the Raptors do trade Scotty Barnes, here's the thing: you don't have to include as many first round picks. So if the Raptors do trade those 3 players I mentioned, makes the money work, you can throw in maybe 2 first round picks, maybe 3, and you're not giving up 4 first round picks, 5 first round picks. The benefit of doing this is that you can have still some of your first round picks available in future trades to kind of shape that roster a little bit better. In terms of, having Scotty and Giannis on the Toronto Raptors, yeah, that would be ideal, but we don't live in an ideal world. It's not going to happen without Scotty Barnes being there. And ultimately, the Raptors would have a starting lineup of Jakob Poeltl, Giannis, Brandon Ingram, obviously RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickly as well. And look, this also allows the Toronto Raptors to not only see how that roster works out, what you can also do then is maybe look to trade off RJ Barrett and a first round pick for something that fits your roster a little bit better, right? So that's where it's important to talk about trades, but also the amount of assets left over if the Raptors were to trade Scotty Barnes. And I'm going to be honest, Scotty Barnes, Giannis fit together would be really strange. Even though Giannis is pretty Scotty, I just don't see how this deal works without Scotty Barnes going to the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, in terms of what the Raptors would look like, I think the Raptors easily are a top 5, top 6 team in the Eastern Conference. Boston Celtics are injured. I think they can leapfrog them, even though they have other players on their roster as well. And, overall, I just think the East is wide open next season. Boston's going to be injured. We don't know what their season's going to look like. We could easily go for it next season. And given Masai's contract situation as well, he is due for a contract. He's going to make a big move. So I would not be surprised if the Raptors do ultimately end up landing Giannis. And just overall, if you know what, you do have a 2 or 3 year window. I do want to go quickly back on Giannis's contract situation here one more time, guys, because taking a look here, he's got 2 years left on his contract plus 1 year after that is player option. So Raptors realistically have a 2 or 3 year window to win the championship. And if things don't work out with Brandon Ingram, maybe you build up his value a little bit. Maybe look to trade him next offseason as well to kind of shape that roster a bit better around Giannis as well, right? So ultimately, I think the Raptors would easily be, the favorites to make the Eastern Conference Finals next season if they were to trade for Giannis. Those are my thoughts, but we also got some other news to discuss as well before we end this video. Now, NBA Central was reporting that the odds on the next star to land in Toronto is, and Domantas Sabonis is right there. Obviously, you got Giannis. You look at some of the other names; it's just not very good, guys. DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, Drew Holiday, Jamal Murray, I actually would not be opposed to. Lauri Markkanen would be nice. Someone did mention that in my last video as well. And then, of course, you just get a little bit more unrealistic as you go down the list here. But DeMontis is actually someone I wanted to include on my, potential trade targets for yesterday. Obviously, a lot of you guys you didn't like the trades, which is completely fine. You're entitled to your opinion. And it would have been worse. Obviously, something about DeMontis is I personally wouldn't trade for him. Do I see the Toronto Raptors being interested in someone like DeMontis? Absolutely. They did try to trade for him when he was on the Indiana Pacers several years ago. And it wouldn't surprise me if the Raptors maybe just try to do that as a plan B, right? If Giannis doesn't work out. Now you may ask, the fit does seem really weird. I mean, let's all be very clear and honest with ourselves. Domantas Sabonis isn't raising your ceiling by that much. Is he going to help you in the regular season? Absolutely. You're going from being a potential 7th, 8th, 9th place team to now potentially being 6th place team, right? 6th, 7th place team. So he does help you win a lot of regular season wins. He does raise, your wins in total, but is he going to be someone that helps you win in the playoffs? Not really. He's still a very talented player, but he's just not for this roster because if you have him and Scotty, you better have a lot of shooters around you. And I don't know if that necessarily works. In terms of DeMontis' contract as well, we do have to talk about this. Because it's one thing when we talk about fit. It's another thing, when we talk about giving up assets. But it's another thing when we talk about contract situation. He's making $43.6 million. So, like, I mean, how are you going to make that money work? And also think of it from the Kings' point of view as well. They're going to try and rebuild. Are they interested in RJ Barrett? Not really. Would they be interested in Emmanuel quickly? Maybe, but I don't really see how that's a huge or great get for Domantas. And most importantly, do the Raptors want to give up more than one first round pick for Domantas? Realistically, not, but that's what the Kings would expect. So again, I just don't see. I could see the Raptors being interested. Do I see the Raptors making a trade for Domantas? I don't think so, and it just doesn't make sense to me if you ask me. But these are my thoughts on the Giannis rumors and Domantas Sabonis as well. What are your thoughts on these? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And as always, I do have a trivia question for you today. And the trivia question for today is, how do you spell Giannis's last name, guys? I know it's tempting. I know it's tempting to just Google it, but seriously, just try to guess. And I want to see, I obviously had to type his name out several times before as well. So I know what his name is spelled like, his last name anyways. But which one is it? Is it A, B, C, or D? And again, I don't want you to guys write the spelling because then it's going to be, me spell checking in the comment section. But just write down, is it going to be A, is it B, is it C, or D? Which is, Giannis's last name. How do you properly spell it? Let me know in the comment section below. And that will be it for today's video, guys. So thank you so much for watching. And I hope you guys have yourselves a great day.